Okay, good morning, everybody. My name's Doug Young. I am the National Chair, Co-Chair of the AIG Mentoring Program, and I'm here in Brisbane in sunny Queensland. And today we have a webinar which is being presented by Patrick McCandless, and it's called called Personal Brand Workshop. And a little bit about Patrick. He resides in Vancouver, where at the moment it's 7 o'clock at night, and it's a very sunny day there, so it's been a great day for him. Patrick has 45 years in the mining industry, principally exploring for base and precious metals. He has managed large-scale exploration projects for senior and junior mining companies, focusing principally on porphyry coppers, volcanogenic massive sulfides, epithermal gold and diamond deposits. He was part of the Imperial Metals team that discovered the copper gold northeast zone in British Columbia and high-grade gold 144 zone in Nevada. He's been recognised by numerous awards: the Rick Hudson Memorial Award for Women in Mining in 2017, the Golden Pick Award 2016, the Robert Hedley Award for Excellence in Social and Environmental Responsibility, 2006, the Westerman Award, and I could go on. He has guest lectured in over 400 universities and colleges, secondary and elementary schools, and he has been a guest presenter for the AIG mentoring program for 3 years now. So I will welcome Patrick and hand it over to him. Thank you, Patrick.
Doug, thank you very much for that very kind introduction, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second session of the Personal Brand Workshop. And if you missed the first session, which was called Discovering Your Brand, not to worry, we're going to be posting the video, hopefully within about a week, and another way where you can get yourself caught up to speed would be to contact me via email. We can set up a Skype call and I can walk you through the process. So nobody will be left out, so not to worry. So Personal Brand Workshop Session 2. Today we're going to be talking about marketing your brand. So even if you didn't get an opportunity to see Discovering Your Brand, there's going to be all kinds of information that you're going to be able to capture in this session. So we're going to take that beautiful brand statement that you hopefully created, and we're going to be creating a brand image to reflect that brand statement. We're going to be looking at creating a different kind of resume, a brand resume. We're going to be looking at creating a business card that I call a brand card. And we're going to look at networking your specific brand. So let's start with brand image. And we're looking at 4 different areas. So for those of you who created brand statements and selected one of these areas to create your brand statement, we're going to get you to use one of those same areas to create your brand image. So let's say it's the school experience. So it could be a photo of you taking notes out in the field based on research you've done in school, or perhaps it was a part-time work experience photo, maybe you at an outcrop out in the field. I'm sure everybody's got some sort of image. And if you don't have an image, it's pretty easy to get one. Just get one of your colleagues to go out with you to an outcrop and have a rock hammer and hammer away on the outcrop, and there you go. You've got yourself a brand image. Perhaps you chose volunteering to create your brand statement, and there you could be having an image of you volunteering either in the school space or in the community space. Perhaps the fourth one you might have chose was a leisure activity, your involvement in sports or the arts. So here's the example we're going to use of this particular individual. Their image they chose was them sampling in the field. So what I'd like you to do now is go to the brand products worksheet or on a blank piece of paper and write the word image, or beside the word image, I want you to write down what that photo is going to look like. Is it you standing at an outcrop? Is it you taking notes in the field? Is it you sampling at a stream? What is that image? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to write down a statement. Once you've got that image statement, then we're going to now move on to using that image, and we're going to put it to use with some what I call brand products or marketing products. So the first one we're going to look at is a brand resume. So when somebody's looking at your resume, they're looking for all kinds of things, like recruiters are looking for people with experience sometimes, but underneath all that, they're looking for people who create value or make a difference. They're looking for people that are going to help their companies grow. And the average amount of time that's spent on a resume, because these recruiters and people looking at your resumes are very busy, it's about 6 seconds. So on average, we're looking at about 6 seconds. So that's not a heck of a lot of time to be looking at a resume. So 6 seconds is all you get. So let's talk a little bit about resume rules. So you can do this, you can't do that. You've heard from so many different people. When you search how to do the perfect resume, you get 25 different or 50 different opinions. So for today, I'm going to ask you to suspend all rules that you've heard about with resumes, just for today. And I want you to focus on just one rule, the 6 second rule. That's what I call it. And in 6 seconds, we have to show people that we have either the potential to build value or have demonstrated that we have built value. So when we do that, the key is we're not making our reader work. These people are very busy, so let's make it easy for them to see how you are a difference maker. So the 6 second rule. Newspaper people, they've got the 6 second rule all figured out, so let's have a look at that. So here's a typical page of a newspaper. What's the first thing they're trying to do is grab the reader's attention. How do they do it? In 6 seconds or less. Every picture tells a story. So they get photographers to take amazing pictures that tell a story. So there it is. There's the image that tells the story. And then what they do to complement the image is they create a summary statement, or in the newspaper context, a headline statement. So there it is. And then to give a little more information about that headline, what they do is they give an expanded statement or a subheadline. So there it is. So that's how they do it. They use images that tell stories. They have a headline statement that basically captures the whole story, and then they give you a little bit more to entice you into the story. And that's what we want to do with a resume, is we want to entice your reader into your amazing story. Okay, so that's what they do. They grab the reader's attention in 6 seconds or less. So how does this apply to a resume? So let's take a typical resume, and we're going to take the top part of the resume, and this is how we're going to grab people's attention in 6 seconds or less. So it's important for you to know we're not going to compromise the content of your resume. We're really just making it changing the appearance in a way that captures people's attention in 6 seconds or less. So what we're going to do is add a blank piece at the top, and what we're going to do is put your name in a large font, email address, phone number. A lot of people put address. No, don't need address. Nobody uses snail mail anymore to contact you, so we take the address out. So let's follow the newspaper model. Image. Okay, so you've already written down what your image is going to be. You standing in an outcrop, you sampling in the field, whatever that image is, and imagine yourself with that image, putting it on your resume. So what I like to do is encourage students to use 2 images, just it creates a little more balance in the resume. So this is what it looks like. So again, if you don't have an image, easy to get them. So there it is. So this is what we've got so far. Once again, we're not compromising the content of the resume. We're just moving things around to capture and hold somebody's attention. Okay, so let's go underneath the image and the name, and let's create another blank space. And let's continue with the newspaper model and create a headline. Basically, it's a statement that tells your whole story. Okay, well, what would that be? It's your brand statement. So for some of you, you've already created your brand statements, and I've seen some amazing brand statements. And again, if you haven't created your brand statement yet, not to worry, we can get you working through this process. It doesn't prevent you from absorbing information for the balance of this session. However, the brand statement is key to the resume and to the brand card and other products. So there it is, brand statement. So here's Hannah Lang's brand statement: making ideas a reality to benefit people and their environment. Look how that brand statement is a good fit for the image. So make sure your image, we can see your face, at least in one of the images, and that is a good fit to your brand statement. Okay, this is what we've got so far. Let's keep building. Underneath the brand statement, we're going to create another blank section. What are we going to add? Well, we're going to take a subheadline. Using the newspaper model, we're going to expand on your story a little bit and entice your reader to read on, get into your resume in 6 seconds or less. So there it is. There's the newspaper model. So here we are. We're going to put a box around this section. And we're going to put 3 things in the box. We're going to talk about your status, what you're interested in, what skills you have. So if you worked with me in the first session, you have all this information. So what's your status? Well, in this case, she's a junior Earth Systems major at Cornell University. You might be a graduate, you might be a geoscientist, you might be a 3rd-year geoscience student at such and such university, whatever you want to put. So back to the brand products worksheet or a blank sheet of paper, write down status, or beside the word status, write down what your status is. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay, here's what we've got in the box so far. I'm a junior Earth Systems major at Cornell University. So it's part of a sentence. Okay, so next we move on to the second thing we're going to put in the box, and that's what you're interested in. So for those of you who completed the first session, you've got this information. I want you to either put down what your dream job is or what your goal is, maybe your industry or your career goal is. So in this case, she's got a very general one, concentrating in geological sciences. So on the brand products worksheet, under interest, or on a blank piece of paper, writing the word interest beside it, please write down either your dream job or career goal. Give you 30 seconds. There we are. I'm a junior Earth Systems major at Cornell University, concentrating in geological sciences. One sentence. Okay, let's move on to the third thing that we're going to put in the box. What skills do you have? So those skills can either be soft skills that we recorded, that you recorded in the first section, Discovering Your Brand, or they can be career or geoscience related skills. So in her case, she's chosen 3 geoscience skills. So for those of you who don't have a lot of geoscience skills, you can use soft skills like communication, leadership, that sort of thing. If you have geoscience skills, I would encourage you then to use the hard skills. So she's got geohazard assessment, geological mapping, data collection. So that's what I want you to do is I'm going to give you 30 seconds, write down 3 hard or soft skills. Here we are. Second paragraph. So basically you have 2 paragraphs, one which essentially says where you're at and where you're going or where you want to go. And then the second one is essentially a description of skills, not necessarily just the skills. So in this case, she says, I've developed technical skills in. You can say, I have skills in. Now notice what we've done with the skills. We've bolded each of the skills. So that enables your reader to focus in quickly on what you are skilled at, both soft and hard skills. So there we are so far. We've got imagery, we've got the brand statement, and we've got the box that says where I'm at, where I'm going, what I'm skilled at. So now underneath the box, what we're going to do is add another section that we call skill summary. And essentially what we're doing there is we're describing each of the bolded skills. So for example, in the box, her first skill is geohazard assessment. So what she's done is she has done a very, very brief description, analyze potential geohazards. She's taken her second skill, geological mapping, field mapping, and cross sections. Very, very simple descriptions. Data collection. Data collection for oil and gas projects. Just simple descriptions. You can expand on these descriptions as much as possible, but I would encourage brevity to ensure that your reader doesn't get bogged down in detail. So what I want you to do, and I'm going to give you just 30 seconds, however, try and describe as many of your 3 skills as possible. So I'll give you, how about I give you 45 seconds. So describe each of your 3 skills very, very briefly. So for example, geological mapping, you might say 1 to 5,000 scale regional mapping, or 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 500 trench scale mapping, that sort of thing. So if you didn't get a chance to finish, that's okay. Finish up on your own time after the session is over. So you'll see here that she's described each of the skills in this skill summary section, which represents the sub headline. So her descriptions are a bit long. In fact, I've encouraged her to take out at least a sentence in each of these. We want to keep it as short as possible. So now it's nice to say you are skilled at geological mapping or data collection, or you have leadership or communication skills. That's fine. What will strengthen the quality of your skill is if we get endorsements. So the model that comes to mind is a pocketbook. When we're thinking of choosing a pocketbook, we typically flip it over. There's a summary statement on the back, and below it, there's typically quotes that essentially describe the quality of the book and encourage you to buy it. So we're going to get quotes that will encourage your reader to contact you. So we're going to take one of these skill summaries, geohazard assessment, and we're going to get a quote. So here's a quote from one of her supervisors. The work Hannah did for me last spring was fantastic and was essential in getting the project ready for publication. That definitely adds to the quality of the skill. So that's what's always missing in resumes, is the measurement of quality of skill. This is what the endorsement does. So here's the skill. There's the quote, which goes right underneath it. And you can get as many quotes as possible. So what I want you to do in the brand products worksheet, or on a blank piece of paper, write down the word reference, and beside it, write down 2 references that you are going to be contacting to get quotes. Give you 30 seconds. So this is what it looks like. So we're still on the first page. We're about halfway, just a little less than, or a little more than halfway. We're into the skill summary section. Right underneath the geohazard assessment description, we've got a quote. All right, so how do you get a quote? This is what we do. We get you to send an email to one of your professors, former professor, perhaps, maybe a coach, a supervisor, a previous employer, or a current employer, and this is what you do. You include the description of the skill in your email, and this is what you say. So please write this down. Could you please write a one-line statement about this skill that I've acquired under your supervision? So what this does is it puts a time frame around your audience's time. So if I get a email from somebody with a very general statement, can you write me a reference letter, or can you write me a quote? Well, what do you want? Do you want a page? Do you want a letter? And in most cases, we don't like doing it because it takes up too much time. Writing a one-line statement can be done in 15 seconds. I've done lots of them, and it's easy to do. Students and young professionals are not having trouble getting quotes. So brand resume is essentially a newspaper model. So this is what we've done. We've created a brand image that reflects a brand statement, which is your headline to your story. It's your whole story of how you create value, and it's a general statement. And then underneath it, we have a subheadline, which essentially is where I'm at, where I want to be, and what I'm skilled at. And those skills are bolded. Underneath it, we expand a little bit more on the subheadline, and we briefly describe each of the skills, and to give quality to each of those skills, or as many as possible, we get a validation quote. So there it is. So what have we done to your resume? Well, we haven't compromised the content. We've just designed it in a way that captures your reader's attention in 6 seconds or less so they can see how you create value. And we just tack on the rest of the resume. If they're interested in your story, just like if you read the headline of a newspaper and you're interested, and you read the subheadline and you want to read more, that's what we're trying to do with your audience, is get them into your story. This is the key to getting them into your story. So a typical cow resume, and I'm not putting down resumes. Resumes really are a follow-up device. We're going to talk in a minute about networking. That's going to be the real way that you're going to end up getting jobs. But nonetheless, there's the standard resume, or what I call the cow resume, and then there's the purple cow one, the one that's unique, the one that stands out. So in a stack of 75 resumes, which one's going to stand out? And I get calls from recruiters regularly, and they say, oh, I got another one of your resumes. And so my question to them is, well, what was your reaction? And they said, yes, definitely stands out and got our attention. That's all we want. Let's continue on featuring the brand statement and using that newspaper model in a way. We're going to create a business card that has the brand image. And that's the key, is to have the brand image so that it fits the brand statement. So here we are, got the brand image. We've got the name, contact information, notice, no address. On the back, she's got her brand statement and experiences and skills. So those can be soft skills or hard skills or geoscience skills. Let's look at another one. So here we are. Here's Mohammed. He's got his engineering. This is actually a Photoshop of him with Highland Valley in the background. Nonetheless, it's a good image. And there's his contact information. And look at the image and how it's a good fit with that brand statement, building engineering solutions through continuous learning and research. And really, it's where I like to see the brand statement is on the front, and so that people can put a face to a name to a brand statement. On the back, skills, all kinds of skills. So a brand card essentially is a mini resume. So when you're at a conference or you've finished an interview, you're not handing out a resume. I discourage people from doing that. What you're doing is you're handing out a mini resume that really tells your whole story. So how do you make one of these brand cards? I do this with high school students right through to master's engineering students, PhD students, young professionals. Everybody's able to do it. So you just go on to any print shop website, such as Vistaprint. I don't mean to plug them, but that's a pretty good site. And they have templates, two-sided templates, and you can create your brand card inexpensively and in very little time. On my website, geodudecorner.com, I've got examples of not only brand resumes, but also brand cards. So check out what those look like, and you can kind of choose what sort of model you want to use to create your resume and card. Let's talk a little bit about networking your brand. So here's a very, very important fact. 80% of jobs that you're going to be acquiring throughout your career are going to be as a result of networking. So it starts with you, and if you haven't got a big network, then you start with family and friends, and then it's within that circle of family and friends that you're going to be creating more circles. So our goal for you in the next 6 months to a year is to expand your network. The more people that know about you and how you create value, the better your chances of being marketable. So let's look at some networking opportunities. This is naturally how you're going to be marketing your brand. One of the ones that I encourage most and one that I use a lot to market my brand is social media. So you can use LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and a website. So I use all of these platforms. So LinkedIn, we're just basically going to take your brand image from your resume and we're going to put it on your LinkedIn profile. Recruiters hardly look at resumes anymore. They're using LinkedIn. So build your resume and then put your LinkedIn profile together, because that's what you want your audience to be looking at, is your LinkedIn profile. So there's the image. Okay, the brand statement that you've created and is on your resume, there it is. Right underneath your brand image and name goes the brand statement. Then we've got the subheadline, or that box around it. So what we want to do now is we want to take that information, which is essentially a summary of where you're at, where you're going, what you're skilled at, and we want to there we go. So there it is there. I'm a senior earth science major at Cornell. All the information that was in that skill summary box is now in your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is organized into sections. That's why recruiters use it. It's easy for them to figure out how you create value. So there's a section for experience, so you can put all of your experience in there. Volunteer experience. Volunteering is the number one filter used by recruiters. Why? It tells people how you make a difference and how you create value. So any volunteering you've done all the way back into high school, please use it. Facebook and Instagram, I use those constantly. So when I'm about to do a presentation or want to talk a little bit about some of the presentations I've done, I usually post a photo and a description. And what happens as a result of that is I get feedback from people, and it's that feedback that other people read, and so it builds the story. The more people that know about your story, the better. So I don't advertise for guest lecturing. So for 2019, I'm probably going to be doing about 170 workshops. That's all because of using these platforms. Twitter, same thing. When I go and do a presentation, I usually get some imagery and talk a little bit about what happened in the presentation. And the usual, I get feedback coming back from the tweet, and people see that. And then I get people contacting me saying, hey, can you do a workshop, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So that's how I've been able to do workshops all around the world, simply using these platforms. Pretty easy to create a website. You just get a domain. Here's my website, so you can have a variety of subjects you can talk about. In this case, when you go on my website, you can learn all about brand statements, brand resume cards, what webinars. I've got a calendar. But the key here is testimonials. I've got literally hundreds and hundreds of testimonials that talk about the quality and the value of the workshops. People read those testimonials. So the thing with your website, you can be doing the same thing. You can be either doing a presentation, or you can be creating a blog on your website, things that you can do, and just start to get a following. That's the key. So back to the brand products worksheet, or on a blank piece of paper, what I want you to do is write down 3 platforms that you're going to be using, and that includes LinkedIn. Give you 30 seconds. All right, so we're talking about marketing your brand. Let's talk about 2 typical ways that you're going to have an opportunity to market your brand. One of them is one-on-one conversations. We'll get into that. And the other is interviews. So one-on-one conversations, that's going to be happening at conferences. It's going to be happening in the hallways in your school, if you're still at school. It's going to be happening in Starbucks. I do one-on-one conversations daily, and it's a way of marketing your brand. So this is how it works. So the idea is to be able to answer, tell me about yourself, right? That's the most common question that you're going to get, is tell me about yourself. So what we want to do is, when somebody says, tell me about yourself, we want to do 2 things. We want to talk about our brand. So we say our brand statement, and we say our value statement. So let's look at how we do that. So the key in this process is show an interest in others. This is so basic, but that's how you start conversations at conferences. This is how you start a conversation in Starbucks. I go into Starbucks and I say to the person behind me, hey, what brings you into Starbucks? That's how I start the conversation. Next thing you know, we're talking about workshops. So show an interest in others, they'll show an interest in you. Not always, but typically. So this is what it looks like. So this is a picture of Hannah and a young professional at a PDAC conference in Toronto. So you walk up to somebody and you introduce yourself. Hi, my name's Hannah. What brings you to the conference? Right? You're showing an interest in others. Nobody's going to bite you. It's not difficult to do. It might seem a little awkward, but really you're not at this point doing much in the way of conversing. You're just asking a question. What brings you to the conference? Blah, blah, blah. They go on about this and that. And then you ask more questions. Well, what company do you work for? What projects are you working on? So that's all your goal is to ask questions. Now comes the question. So typically someone who has been answering your questions, they often reciprocate. And in this case, they say, so Hannah, tell me about yourself. So there we are, the big question. So instead of going on and on about, well, I've been doing research at the University of blah, blah, and so on and so forth, all you've got is 6 seconds. That's the average attention span of most people. You got to get your story out there. So this is what we do. It's like fishing. So the idea is you're casting, and the bait that you want to put on your hook is your brand statement. So this is how it works. So when somebody says, tell me about yourself, all you say is, I'm a geology student. Not I'm a geology student at da-da-da university. It's just I'm a geology student. Or I'm a geologist. Simple as that. Then you say your brand statement. Making ideas a reality to benefit people and the environment. There's the hook, right? There's the bait or the lure that's on your line. Now, if they're curious, in other words, they are attracted to your brand, they like what they've just heard, or they're just plain curious, they're going to want to know more. That's why brand statements, it's important that they're general and short. 6 seconds, that's all you get. Okay, so then she says, well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Okay, now it's your opportunity to say your value statement. My volunteer experience in Nepal allowed me to create a landslide hazard map for local communities to implement in future development. That says she creates value. Now you're either into a deep conversation or you move on and you just exchange cards. You never lose, because at the very least you get somebody's card, but hopefully they're interested in your story. So then you might continue on with a little more of a chat. They're more and more interested in you. Definitely thank them for taking the time to tell you a little bit about their company and their involvement. Here's the key: exchange cards. Right? So you're going to be exchanging your brand card with their card. So they're going to be back at the office. They're going to look at your unique card that's got not only your image so they can remember who you are, but also your brand statement. So follow up, usually same day follow up, and then 2 weeks later, after you've done some research on their company, you ask questions. Remember the key: show an interest in others. Let's talk about interviews. It's the same process. You're looking for that opportunity in the interview to say your brand statement and your value statement. So here's a few tips on interviews. These are very basic, but it's important to greet with a firm handshake, sit tall and relaxed, speak with a confident voice, don't fidget, don't use eye contact with speaking, and don't think out loud. Don't use So these are very, very basic, but very, very important ones to do. So I've got here 11 typical questions asked by recruiters. So they range from tell me about yourself to what are your short-term and long-term goals, what motivates you, what are your weaknesses, why do you want to work here, that sort of thing. So we're going to go through and look at a few of them. So tell me about yourself. Well, we've already done this, right? It's an opportunity to say your brand statement. So you say I'm a geology student, or I'm a geologist, and say your brand statement. If they're curious, perfect. Use your value statement. Another one where you can use your brand statement. So your goal in an interview is to find that opportunity to use your brand statement. How will you make a difference or add value for our company? That is such a common question. Well, guess what? Showtime. Get the chance to use your brand statement. So what you say this time is you don't say I'm a geologist or I'm geology student. You say, well, you know, when I get hired, I will be brand statement. So remember, it starts with an action word. When I get hired, I will be brand statement. Okay, if they're curious, if they're interested, then you get a chance to say your value statement. Few other ones here. There's tell me about your successes, or what are your strengths, what are your long-term goals, even what are your weaknesses, why do you want to work here. Really, all I want you to do is emphasize the 5 things that we went over in the first workshop. Talk about your strengths, skills, values, passions, and goals whenever you can. Put it in the context of their questions, but emphasize these are the things that you use to create value. I'm going to show you finally one little trick question. How much do you expect to be paid? This is I don't know why this question is asked, because it's not really up to you. So don't fall for that. What I want you to do is say, I expect to be paid fair market value. Please write that down. I expect to be paid fair market value. Don't get into lowballing, saying minimum wage or so much an hour or so much a month. That's not up to you. That's up to them. Really, all you want to be emphasizing in your interview is you're the kind of person that's going to make a difference for their company. And if you do that, you expect to be paid fair market value. And if they say, well, what do you think fair market value is? I would turn around and say, well, I'm assuming you know what fair market value is, and you know what fair market value is. So just to wrap up here, I'm with you in this process as we continue to get you market ready. So the next thing I want you to do as a result of this second session is I want you to create a brand card and a brand resume. And again, go on my website, geodudecorner.com, and you can find all kinds of examples. And then I want you to post both of them. Now you can use Edmodo, which we used last week. And if you weren't involved with us last week, or you don't want to use Edmodo, then please just send me the brand card and brand resume, pmcandless@telus.net. My goal is to stick with you through this process to get you market ready. If you're struggling with your brand statement, if you're struggling with the value statement or any aspect of this whole marketing program, please send me an email. We can always set up a Skype call. Our goal is to make sure that you are confident and comfortable and market ready to launch your career. Helping others discover their greatness. Everybody has got greatness. What we're trying to do here is go through a discovery process to find out what that greatness is. And that greatness is reflected in your brand statement. And what we want to do is make sure you are prepared to, there's no sense having a brand statement and not using it. So that's the key, is getting you market ready. So Doug, I'd be happy to entertain any questions, or if somebody wants to send questions via my email, that's fine as well. Thank you everybody for participating in the workshop. We're doing our best at AIG to support students and young professionals in their career development. So we really appreciate your involvement.
Well, thank you, Patrick. That was an excellent presentation. I have a couple of questions already, and if other people wish to ask questions, please type them in on the chat section, chat box there, and we'll take them in order. Vinicius Beale has a question. People and headhunters say to me, resume without photos and 2-page maximum. What should I do?
Absolutely. If that's what they want, then give it to them. Really, we're not going to fight them. What we're trying to do with this whole personal brand process is attract the right people to your brand. So if there is a company or a recruiter that is more focused on format of resume, I'm not sure if I want to work for that company, quite frankly. So yeah, go ahead. I mean, if that's what they want, no problem. Give it to them. 80% of jobs are acquired through networking. That's really where it's going to happen. And that's where you get to use your brand statement most effectively. But yeah, it's, and the same with applications. Applications, often they'll say no photos, don't do this, don't do that. The thing with all those rules is they want you to look like everybody else. And that's not what purple cows do. Purple cows are unique in the field. They stand out. Everybody participating in this workshop, we're all purple cows, and we all create value in our own unique way. So for all of my career, I've always been a purple cow, and when somebody tells me I should do my resume a certain way, I generally do it the way I think emphasizes how I create value.
Yeah, so there's a couple other questions around the same use of photos on the CV. Gab asked the question, I'm frequently told I should never use photos on the CV. Lau Ho says, I'm a bit two-way about the photo. I have one as a graduate who looks professional, but not as a geologist.
Absolutely. So that's what we want to encourage people, is to have an image that reflects your brand statement. Now, if you're uncomfortable with putting a photo on a resume, that's fine. Really, resumes are the ultimate follow-up. What I'm really encouraging people is to do info interviews and get out talking to people. That's where it's going to happen. The thing with the photo, I remember being at a high school, and the teacher put up their hand and said, "Oh, no, we don't encourage our students to use photos." And I said, well, if a student is uncomfortable using the photo, I totally understand and appreciate that. However, the reality is, at some point, if the individual is successful in securing an interview, how do you deal with that? Do you put a bag over your head, or what's the deal? They're going to see you no matter what. So, but again, I fully appreciate people's concerns. If they're not comfortable with using a photo, I'm okay with that.
Yes, Rod says many applications these days require your CV to fit within the company template. You upload the CV and it gets scanned into their format. So you have less control over what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. In this whole marketing process, where we have the least amount of control is resumes. What people cannot do is tell you what to do with your LinkedIn profile. That's why I emphasize when you're going to be marketing, we want to be marketing with our LinkedIn profile. Yes, I understand that you need to submit resumes with applications. I think as little as 5 years from now, there won't be a thing called a resume. They'll all be social media, LinkedIn profiles, or some other social media platform. So resumes, they want them designed in a certain way. Yes, they have logarithmic programs that read keywords. Well, the keywords that come out of your resume are going to be right at the top, and that's your brand statement. This is how you create value. So again, what I'm trying to emphasize is we're trying to attract the right people to our brand. These are the kind of companies and people that we want to work for. They're going to give us responsibility and help us grow and develop as we help the company grow. So all these companies and, some HR people particularly are hung up on resume format. Wow. That's not, we're beyond that in terms of how we're marketing ourselves. So if you're working with me going forward, I'm going to be getting you to pick 6 places that you're going to be going in the next 6 months to market your brand. So I want to see you going to conferences, luncheons, meetings, walking up to people and saying, hey, what brings you to the meeting? And blah, blah, blah. And then, I'm going to tell me about yourself. And then I want you to be using your brand statement. And if they're interested, your value statement. This is how you are ultimately going to progress successfully through your career.
There's a comment from Andrew Waltho who says mid-tier and smaller companies in exploration and mining frequently don't use recruiters and read what they are sent. They're also the largest source of employment across the industry. Patrick's message that 80% of jobs come through networking is very true. So having the groundwork in place is really important.
Absolutely. Fantastic comment. So when we go to conferences, what we do is we do research on some of these junior mining companies, because really those are the mover and shakers and where you're going to get probably your best opportunities to grow. Certainly was the case with me. And you do a little bit of research and then you go up to the booth and you say, I've got a few questions about your Red Chris project. Oh, really? So right away you're showing an interest and you say, yeah, I'd like to know. And you've already read a bunch of facts on it. So you've taken facts and you've turned them into questions, but really all you're doing is showing an interest. So what you say is, I've done a little bit of research on your Red Chris deposit. Could you tell me what the significance of the argillic overprint is on the relationship between chalcopyrite and bornite? Now, you might not know what you're talking about, but it's a fact. And all you've done is turned it into a question. Are they going to be impressed with your interest in their project? Absolutely. You're going to be exchanging cards. They might even say, well, gosh, whoa, tell me about yourself. What's going on with you? Well, I'm a geologist, or I'm a geology student helping others discover their greatness. Really? How does that work? When I say my brand statement to people, 9 times out of 10, they're curious. How do you do that? I worked with a landscape gardener who created a brand statement, and it was creating gardens with hidden surprises. And he created a business out of talking to 30 people. They all wanted to know what creating gardens with hidden surprises was all about, and he got out to do job assessments, and he built a company based on a brand statement. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be building a career based on a statement that says, this is me and how I create value.
So there's a question from Charmaine. With listing references and referees, is it advisable to put available on request, or should we just list them on our CV?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I would list them. The idea of the quote is it just doesn't make your reader work. Right below your geological mapping or your data collection or your data analysis, you've got a quote from a professor that says, Charmaine was one of our most amazing research students, or whatever that quote is. So it just makes it, remember, don't make your reader work. I mean, a list of references, okay, now I got to call one of these references or I got to email them. If I've got that quote sitting right underneath the skill, does that make it easy? I'm still going to contact them, but it encourages me to want to know more.
There's another question from Vinicius. In terms of volunteer information on LinkedIn, if you don't have much work experience to put up there, is it good to put the volunteering information in as work experience?
Yes, thank you so much for putting that question forward. So as I'd mentioned in the session, volunteering, I've talked to many, many recruiters and I say, so what are some of the filters that you use to get a handle on how people have the potential to create value? And they say volunteering. Really? Yes, it's our number one filter. And it makes sense because you do volunteering on your own time, your own nickel, and you're making a difference, whether it's at the community level or in the school experience. So any volunteering that you've done, if you haven't got a lot of work experience, but you've got volunteering experience, trust me, recruiters are looking at it because the new hiring trend is towards growing people. So in other words, people who have the potential to build value, and that's reflected in the volunteer experience, rather than necessarily hiring somebody with 20 years of experience. So we still do that, but more and more companies want newbies, and it's just kind of the Y generation and X generation and even millennials. It's a new way of doing things, and part of that new way of doing things is growing people from the ground up, starting them as young geoscience seeds and growing them into, so it's a win-win for both company and the individual. The company gets to sort of mold you into how they want you to make a difference or create value for their company. And it's a benefit for the individual who gets mentoring and all kinds of other things that help their careers grow and develop.
Okay, I think we're pretty much out of time here now. There's one other comment from Andrew Waltho that the AEGC 2019 Student and Early Career Geoscientist Day program is about to be released, and that will be a great opportunity for networking possibilities there in Perth. That's coming up in the next few weeks.
Wow, fantastic. So Andrew, thank you so much for mentioning that. So anybody that wants help in practicing using your brand statement, I'd be happy to do a little bit of that with you. But at the very least, with your brand statement, if you've created one, start practicing. There's no sense having one if you're not going to use it. So you got to get comfortable with it. So when somebody says, when a family member, get them to practice with you and they say, all right, so tell me about yourself. Okay, I'm a geologist. Helping others discover the greatness. Really, how does that work? And then say your value statement. Just get comfortable. Every day when you get up, say your brand statement, right? Because this is your mantra for how you are going to go about your day making a difference. That's what I do. Every morning I get up and I say, okay, how am I going to make a difference today? helping others discover their greatness. So I go out and I target 5 people I don't know to see if I can get a chance to say my brand statement. So I do it at baseball games, Starbucks, you name it.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Well, I think we've come to the end of our time. I've just unmuted everybody, so if you wish to thank Patrick, go ahead. Patrick has done this webinar series for the AIG mentoring programs and now for the National Graduate Group. You know, he's been doing that for 3 years, so it's been, we really appreciate
because I felt like he just
Patrick's put
was
in.
like nice. He was going through at a good pace at the start, and everything was fine. And then he started.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. That's the end of the presentations. It will be put up on our website as soon as it's available, and you should be able to see that in a week or so. Thanks very much, and bye for now.